itself. At the same time, it's very easy to extrapolate and say, if we do have a natural God-given right to our life and liberty, shouldn't we have the God-given right to keep what we earn?
Woo! Yes!
Today, the atmosphere is a little bit different because now we've had a president and an administration has had 3 years to try and straighten this mess out. And unfortunately, for the people of this country, things aren't that much better. Occasionally, you'll hear a government statistic. Unemployment is still a big problem. This idea that it's dropping a little bit here and there, when you count everybody who's dropping out, it's very high. It could be as high as 20%. And when you look at the middle class is shrinking, and it's getting poorer. The people on fixed incomes their standard of living is going down, and that, of course, is because the valuation of our money is going down, and the productivity in this country is going down, and the debt is a serious problem. This is something that the administration has to explain, and this is one good reason why there will be a change in administration come November. Gave the impression that he would do something to wind the wars down. And all of a sudden, those people who were seeking peace thought, well, maybe there would be hope because he was hardly in the office a day or two and he got the Nobel Prize for peace. I'm not quite sure how he qualified because the wars continue to go on. And I think that's something that we have to give serious thought to. We cannot win an election by saying we need more war. We need less war. Be more precise and be more objective about when to go to war. Why don't we just follow the Constitution and don't go to war unless it's a declared war?
That's right!
And then if that is necessary and the people are behind the Congress and the Congress makes the direction, and gives the direction to go to war, then it's the President's responsibility to manage the war. He's the commander-in-chief. But our president today claims in committee, when the Secretary of Defense has come before the committee, he claims he doesn't even have to come to the Congress and he can go to war under UN resolutions, and that is not right. So there's a lot of reason for us to be optimistic politically that we can unseat this president, but I think it's very important that we restore confidence in the Republican Party, that we are the fiscal conservatives. We care about personal liberty, and we care about a foreign policy that provides for a strong national defense without going into war carelessly. To, as well as most Americans, are pretty annoyed about what this president has done with executive orders. You know, it wasn't too long ago that he was asking for some environmental legislation, and it was coming slowly, not fast enough for him from the Congress. So he says, that's okay, I'll just write an executive order. Well, this is not right. The legislative branch is the Congress, it's not the executive branch, and it's not the judicial system that's allowed to legislate. It's the executive branch, and this president has issued an executive order that says that we can assassinate American citizens now. Well, there are a lot of bad people out there, and bad people, in order for us to be guaranteed a trial, should be given a trial. We did it with the Nazi war criminals. Yep. We can do it with any American citizen. Do it through the law and the rule of law, and not by an executive order to undermine the personal liberties that were fought for so many years. Yep. Yes. To portray as Republicans is not more of the same. We cannot win or we cannot change the country if our goal is to maintain the status quo. The status quo is what this new generation is very upset about. The status quo has been, no matter whom we elect, it seems to stay the same. The wars stay the same. The Federal Reserve stay the same. They want people to challenge this, challenge the status quo, challenge the bailouts, and challenge the Federal Reserve System as well. Frequently it is advised, and this is advised especially by Republicans, and I endorse all the bills that makes this attempt, and that is we have to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Of course we should, but let me tell you, waste, fraud, and abuse is a much bigger problem than that, because government itself is wasteful, fraudulent, and abusive. Once when they take our money, and second when they spend the money and do harm to us. So the whole principle is we have to ask the question. We have to ask the question not only as Republicans and conservatives, not only as constitutionalists, but people, we have to ask the question about what the role of government ought to be. And the founders gave us the answer. The role of government ought to be that of protection of liberty and defending this country. That's what the role of government ought to be. Curtail spending and understand that the entitlement system fails, and most of the time the entitlements go to the wealthy. When you destroy a currency, you transfer wealth from the middle class to the very wealthy just by the nature of the destruction of a currency. But our country, as well as the world now, faces bankruptcy. And the liberal side, those other economists claim that the answer to too much spending and too much debt and too much printing of money, the answer is the government has to spend more money, print more money, write more regulations, tax the people. It won't work. That is the status quo, and that's the way it's been for a long time. And believe me, economically and politically, it won't last, and that is the reason it's crucial that we get a message out to the Republican Party that what we need is the limitation of government power, limitation of spending, the curtailing of the government intrusion on our personal lives, the curtailing of our government in our economic lives. If we get that message out, then the next thing is we have to convince the people we're serious, because there's a lot of skepticism out there. There's a lot of frustration. Some states now, the most numerous body of political people are independents. And you can't win an election without independence, and you ought to be able to nibble away at the Democratic votes as well.
Yep.
We are in the midst of a bankruptcy, the biggest and worst in the world. We owe $5 trillion to foreigners. This cannot be maintained. But more importantly, we have been living as a country with bankruptcy of ideas. We have been lulled to sleep into the Keynesian thought of believing that you can print money and spend money and deficits don't matter. So the real bankruptcy is the bankruptcies of ideas. The bankruptcy where we are not defending our property rights, we're not defending contract rights, we're not defending sound currencies, we're not defending the Constitution like we should. We have a bankruptcy of ideas. And once we find out that ideas do have consequences, for the last 100 years we've had a lot of bad ideas having bad consequences. It's time for us to renew our faith and confidence in the good ideas that were given us by the founders in the Constitution. Under those conditions, those good ideas are going to have good consequences. That's what should bring us all together and join in making this country a much better country.